In this video, you will learn how to configure Blaze Inventory test types. It may be useful to configure a test type in order to capture a particular property of an item and/or its material type. Properties for items of a material type may be defaulted from the configuration of material type, entered from external information such as the item's COA, measured in the laboratory and then entered, or calculated via ELN type calculations in prepping the material. Refer to the Blaze Inventory Guide or the support hotline at Blaze Systems in order to learn more about configuring test types. For best video quality, set your display in the control panel to at least 1024 by 768. Set your browser page zoom to 100%. And in some cases, full screen produces better results. You configure a Blaze Inventory test type by selecting the Configure Basic Definitions Test Type menu item. The first step is to enter a test type name. Before we do that, let's consider some of the issues associated with naming test types. When selecting test type names for configuration, it's best to establish some naming conventions. Test type names will be visible throughout Blaze Inventory, and a convention will ensure maximum effectiveness in information content and specificity. It may not seem so at first, but upfront attention to naming will provide significant benefits throughout the lifetime of Blaze Inventory. Some issues to consider are the current target of the name. It's usually best to make the names lab user friendly rather than conform to names used by instruments, legacy systems, contract labs, custom reports, and so forth that are less friendly. Translations are available for things like reports. It's usually best to represent the property irrespective of how it is provided or what material it applies to or is being tested. Special cases might be things like viscosity at 20 degrees C, which in fact is a different property than viscosity at 40 degrees C, although both are viscosity. Use industry standard names where available, for example, names from an EPA method. The maximum length of a test type name is 40 characters, although the full 40 may not be visible on some screens. If possible, avoid ambiguity when the full name will not be immediately visible. There's always a choice of mixed case or uppercase for test type names. It's usually best to use mixed case because often a test type name requires mixed case. For example, some compound names. Avoid analysis paralysis, as arriving at proper naming is often an iterative process. Names can be changed later in the configuration process. Once you've defined a test type name, you can also add a description, which is often a more comprehensive or descriptive definition, which can be included on reports for more user friendliness. There's a variety of other identifiers that can be entered for informational purposes. 3 other parameters are typically useful for information. One is the result type. Let's take a minute to look at different possible result types. Once you've assigned a test type name, you might also assign a test type description, which is typically a longer, perhaps more user-friendly definition of the test type for use in reports. There are also available a number of additional identifiers for informational purposes. A result type must be assigned to each test type, and for Blaze Inventory you might typically assign whether it's a measured variable or observed, such as a color or a flavor. If you're sharing test type definitions between Blaze LIMS and Blaze Inventory, you would select the result type as it would be used in Blaze LIMS. You should also, if possible, assign a units of measure. Units of measure may be entered on an ad hoc basis or from a list of legal units of measure that has been defined. Finally, it is useful to assign a format code, which provides the information necessary to round off a value to a certain number of significant digits or enforce a certain kind of data entry. Format codes are assigned to test types or properties within Blaze Inventory to achieve two important purposes. The first purpose is to provide a validity check on data that is entered to ensure that numeric values have legal numeric formats and that text values are of a certain form and date-time values are of legal format. The second significant purpose is to ensure that only the proper number of significant digits are stored, and any more digits than that are entered are rounded. Format codes can be numeric integer, with the number of n's represented the number of legal digits in the entered number. Numeric fixed point, where a number of digits to the left of the decimal, a decimal, and the number of digits to the right of the decimal are specified. In this case, when more digits than 2 are entered, for example, the number will be rounded to 2 digits. An exponential format indicates that 2 digits, a decimal point, and a desired number of digits to the right of the decimal, and then 4 digits of an exponent are legal for entry. A numeric significant digits format code allows for a number of total characters to be entered, with the number of characters of significance to be represented by the number of S's. So, for example, a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that was entered would be converted to 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 0. A text format code for the number of legal characters to be entered, and various date-time format codes. Numeric rounding is specified at the system level to be either odd, even, or truncate. Odd even rounding will always round so that the rightmost digit is even if rounding is necessary. So, for example, 1.235 would round to 1.24. 1.225 would round to 1.22. Truncation rounding would round down when the rounded off digit is 5, or round up when it's above 5, or round down when it's below 5. To configure the kind of rounding you desire on a system-wide basis, select the Configure System-Wide Configuration screen, and pick the Miscellaneous tab, and then pick either odd-even rounding or up rounding, and apply it. An unlimited number of comments may be added to the test type entry screen to document various changes that are made. An audit trail is available to show all changes that have been made to the test type. The kind of change, the field that was changed, the version number that was involved in changing it, the date it was changed, the username, and the old and new values associated with the change. This does complete our training on setting up test types for Blaze Inventory. Thank you for spending the time to learn more.